A very good evening to all of you. I, on behalf of CBO Chartered and Cost Accountants Association, President CA Jigar Atilal Gogri, welcome you all for today's webinar on guidance for preparation of CA exams. Friends, CA is one of the most sought after and respected professions in India and around the world. Last year, exams got postponed about, I think, 4 times due to COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown, but finally it took place in November 20 and January 21. Again, due to the second wave, the exams have been postponed this year too. Postponement of exams is really very depressing, but one's cannot proceed without such negativity in exams. It is necessary for students to refresh themselves and restart their preparations with renewed vigor. Many of you and your families might have been affected in this COVID. In such challenging times, it is necessary to keep ourselves motivated. Today we have with us CA Ayush Dedia, who is a All India Ranker 33, and CA Jyoti Soni, who was an ex-examiner with the institute, who will share their knowledge and experience. Before that, let us welcome our own CBO CA Managing Committee member and WRC past chairperson, CA Preeti Savla, to give us the address, who will be addressing about institute's point of view. Thank you. Now I'll request, before we start the session, I'll request CA Disha Gada to please introduce Preeti Savla.
Hi everybody, thank you Jigar sir. So it gives me immense pleasure and honor to introduce our very own keynote speaker for today's webinar, CA Preeti Savla. CA Preeti Savla has been chairperson of WIRC of ICAI for the year 2019-20. Under her chairpersonship and leadership, WIRC has adjudged Best Regional Council and received Best WICASA Award, thus bestowing the Regional Council with an outstanding performance and many more achievements. Preeti ma'am is a qualified chartered accountant, insolvency and visa professional. She has also completed her certificate course on forensic accounting and fraud prevention from ICAI and Entrepreneurs Development Program from Indian School of Business, ISB. She has been founder WICASA, chairperson of Thane branch. She is a partner in KBP and Associates, Chartered Accountants. She is an independent director in listed companies having group turnover of over 10,000 crores and trustee in mutual fund trustee company. She has exposure of more than 20 years in areas of strategic planning, business advisory, process setup, risk mitigation, and finance. She is serving WIRC since last 9 years and escalated all the issues to the center and solved queries of members and students. She has been a guiding light and mentor to various students. We once again welcome you, Preeti ma'am, and I request Preeti ma'am to share her thoughts and continue the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Disha, for such a wonderful introduction. Before we start, I'll request Jinal to please felicitate our today's speaker.
Thank you, Jigar bhai. It's honor and privilege for me to present this certificate of appreciation to CA Preeti Savla. Preeti ma'am.
Thank you for such a certificate and appreciation.
Thank you. Now, Preeti, floor is yours.
President CA Jigar Gogri, an entire team of CBO Association, Chairman of Student Committee CA Paras Savla, Convener CA Parin Gala, where is he, Parin? An entire team of Student Committee, office bearers Rahul, Jinal, and other office bearers, my co-speakers CA Jyoti Ben Soni and recently qualified AIR 33 CA Ayush Dedia, and my all young, dear, enthusiastic students. A great good evening to all of you. First, I am here to deliberate on two things at present. One is about lot of confusion in the minds of students when the CA exams are going to happen, because recently, because of this COVID wave 2, the exams from 21st May have got postponed without any further notification when it is going to happen. So friends, just now I was trying to President sir and even spoke with Central Council member when about this exam. So recently on 18th and 19th of May, there was a Central Council meeting, and what decisions have been taken about the exams. So I thought, okay, this will be really very helpful to all of you. So I should share first with all of you about this examination. Friend, what to do about it and how to do. ICSI company secretaries exams have been cancelled. However, the CA Institute has taken the decision that exams will not be cancelled. However, they have announced that at least whenever this pandemic will be, cool down, and when everyone will be prepared for taking the exam, because it is all over India. There are more than 500 centers where exams are taken, ICAI exams are taken. So institute has also to see that everywhere there is no pandemic, there is no the preparations of or exams can be made, and everyone is ready, all centers are ready, and there is no pandemic anywhere all over India. And accordingly they have taken the decision that exams will be postponed, and whenever the exams will be conducted, at least 25 days notice will be given, so that students are also prepared for giving the exams. This 25 days notice period will be given. But as of now, there are situation in different states of the country are different, and there is no assurity when the exams will be taken. However, they have reopened, the institute has reopened for filing the examination. So that the exam, if anyone has not filled the form, can fill it and take up the, can give the exam. That is on the part of examination. However, on I will come to the second part is about technology. Technology, friends, the technology in recent past has been so fast and has been changed so fast. So we have to upgrade ourselves with the technology. At institute level also, the technology regularly is upgraded. Everyone is aware about the SSP portal, which has been so everything is now online. Even membership, becoming the member or the student of the institute, renewing your membership online, there is nothing offline. Similar way, examination checking pattern is also digitalized. So so sometimes the students are under impression, myth, that in the myth that my paper has not been checked properly or is not properly, some questions answers are not at all checked or verified. So friends, in this the exam papers are verified digitally, it is the system is built in such a way that there are boxes against each answers. So if the marks are not allotted in that particular box, the paper, the page will not be folded. It will not go, if the marks are not allotted on that particular page, the paper checker will not be able to go on the next page. So that in that manner, these papers are being verified digitally, and against the totaling is happening automatically. So this way, this examination pattern with technology is developed. So don't worry about that your papers are not checked properly or entirely. So it is digitalized, and this will system will come is implemented from next exam. So this entire system is ready. However, the implementation will be done from next exam. So friends, don't worry at all. Again, there is a myth that some exam from, if we give from some center, then it will be the student gets passed, and if he gives from some center, he is not passed. So that is also a myth. So don't rely on such thing. I would only suggest prepare properly and see that you are covering all the study materials entirely. Nothing is left from that. Again, the practice, it is always said, more practice, more marks. Do maximum practice, writing practice, solve previous year's papers, scanner, as well as RTP, and lot of material from the institute. There are various online lectures are available from ICAI, Board of Studies. So please go through all those things and don't leave a single page from study material. That will help you a lot. Don't only rely on your classes notes or classes lectures. Everything is online. Again, technology, what best you can make use of technology. So there is a mobile with you, and you have the two choice, whether to see ICAI online lectures or your studies, or just chat on WhatsApp or on Instagram with your friends. Choice is yours, what you should do. So accordingly, you prepare yourself. Again, there is a lot of confusion and frustration because some students have taken leave for preparing their final examination. But in this pandemic, the students are not aware when the exam will happen and how much they should study. So divide your time in such a way that you are also doing some work, also studying. Don't leave study at all. Motivate yourself by, again, some 15 minutes, 20 minutes motivation video you should see in a day. Talk to your friends who are positive so that you get positive energy. Don't be negative. So that your entire motivation, it has to be self motivation, so that you are prepared. At least final students should at least read 4 to 5 hours a day. Even if right now there is you are not aware about when the exams are going to happen, this is my suggestion. Divide your entire day in such a way you are not getting frustrated also. Third most important thing which I want to touch upon is about the pandemic. And everywhere it is said that the third wave may come to India also, and this will suffer. The youngsters in India will get suffered. So my advice to all of you that eat healthy food. Don't only eat all packaged foods or packed food. Eat healthy food. You should have proteins and vitamins in your food. And now outside, you are not going outside to get sunlight. And take proper care of your health also, because in times to come you will require a lot of energy for studies, for giving exams, so that you are prepared for that. So use properly technology, take proper food, and stay positive for your studies and everything for future career of your life. However, take care of your health. These are my views and my suggestions. We'll take some questions from anything if you have to ask me at the end. And anytime you can connect me. My number is there with everyone in CVOCA managing committee members also, president or entire team. So please stay fit, stay healthy, stay positive. All the best, and I wish that all of you to become the member of the institute in your first attempt and become a member of CVOC Association also. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti, for such motivating words for the students. Friends, she is doing a commendable job. Being at the institute level, she has helped a lot of members and even students. Those who have any problems can connect her at any time. She'll be always available for students and members. Thank you. Now I'll request Disha to Paras Maru to please introduce our today's next speaker. Ayush.
Yeah, thank you, Jigar bhai. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our today's young speaker, CA Ayush Dedia. CA Ayush Dedia is qualified chartered accountant and has secured All India 33rd rank in CA final in November 2020 attempt. with exemptions in 7 subjects. He is presently working as assistant manager as a global business taxation at Deloitte Hoskins and Sales LLP. His area of work include international and corporate taxation advisory. He has done his articleship from GBCA and Associates LLP Chartered Accountant in the area of international taxation, transfer pricing, and FEMA. During his tenureship as article, he has won various awards such as Promising Newcomer, Best Article Assistant of the Year, and Star Performer. With this brief introduction, I request all of you to welcome our learned speaker, Ayush Dedia.
Thank you, Paras. Now we can introduce our next speaker also.
Yeah. So we have very our first speaker was very young and dynamic, and our second speaker, she is Jyoti Yogesh Soni. She is very experienced and uh, uh, well known. So, I'll start her introduction. She is by qualification, she is BCom and practicing chartered accountant. She is practicing for last 31 years as a partner with Nagda and Sony Associates. She has given several successful lectures on counseling for CA students and has successfully counseled in numerous CA students. She is ex-examiner of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. She is also regular faculty for GMCS and orientation of our institute. She was judge at National Talent Search of ICAI at the regional level. She was also judge at 2-day student conference of WICASA conducted by the Thana branch of ICAI. With this brief introduction, I request all of you to welcome her with loud.
Thank you, Paras.
Yeah.
Before we start the session, I request Jinal Savla to please offer memento to our today's faculties.
It is honor for me to present this e-certificate to CA Ayush Dedia.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and the CBSCA team to present me with this opportunity.
Jinal.
On behalf of association, I present this certificate to CA, our learned speaker, CA Jyoti Soni.
Thank you.
Jyoti
Thank you
ma'am,
so
this
much.
is for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the honor and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jinal. Welcome to both the speakers. I'll request now Ayush to please start the session.
Thank you. I will just share my screen.
Ayush, if you can just, your voice is a bit low.
Oh, yeah. Am I audible right now?
Yeah.
Sir, can you let me know if the screen is visible?
Yeah, visible.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank CA Jigar Gogri, the president of CBOCA, CA Paras Savla, chairman of student committee of CBOCA, and CA Parin Gala, the convener of the CBOCA student committee, for and all the CBOCA team for presenting me with this lovely opportunity to guide the new batch and fresh batch of CA aspirants and help them in their journey to achieve what their dream has been, which is to get 2 letters, which is CA before their name. Okay, and I would also like to thank all the participants who have gathered in huge numbers to gain insights and help their preparation for the CA examinations. With this, I would like to, so with this, let's dive into the ocean that's preparation for the CA examinations. Okay. Okay, so I am assuming that majority of the participants who are present here would be appearing for the CA exam, CA final examination. There would also be some participants who would be appearing for their IPCC or inter examination. Okay, so the most of the there was a mix of all the stuff which each and every participant can grab for their own benefits. Okay, so I would like to start with what to do immediately after a IPCC or inter examination. So you have got your results, you have successfully cleared your IPCC or inter examinations. Your next step would be to find a good articleship firm where you can grow and build your early phases of your career with a good articleship opportunity. Okay, so that would be your first step doing that. After that, my recommendation would be to just chill for a while and relax, get all the stress which has been with you for the previous 9 months or so while preparing for a IPCC or inter examinations, and don't rush into starting your classes for CA final as early as October. If you have cleared your May examinations in August, July or August, okay, I would say let that feeling sink in, uh, chill for a while, and then after a considerable amount of time, then start your classes. Also, an important thing after clearing your examinations and starting your articleship would be to focus and to give your entire focus on your articleship, because with the articleship you can gain as much as practical experience you can, and this will help you a lot during your CA final preparations as well as your future career in your future career. Okay, so
Ayush,
the main focus
your
should be on your
voice is a bit low. If you can just take your mic near to your speaking.
yeah.
Yeah, much better.
Now am I audible?
Yes,
better?
yes, much better.
So my main recommendation would be to focus in your 2.5 year of the articleship, which would help in your CA final preparations as well as in your future career as well. Then coming to what should be completion of the first reading before starting your study leave. Okay, so in that case, uh, before starting your study leave of 5 months or 4 months, whatever the period you are getting from your firm, okay, would be to at least aim and target to complete at least 3 subjects before going on a study leave, which could be a majority of practical subjects, and one subject can be a theory subject, but I would recommend you to start with the practical subject, as you can solve more and more sums there, and leave theory for the later part of the study leave. Okay, also during the last 6 months of your articleship uh, before going on a study leave, okay, whatever the subjects you are attending in the classes, I would recommend that you simultaneously complete that subjects then and there itself, or do self study of those subjects in the last 6 months side by side, which would help you to complete those subjects quickly and grasp them quickly. Okay, then coming to cost benefit analysis for attending classes after the start of study leave. So many a times what happens is that uh, you are gone on study leave, but your classes are still going on. My recommendation would be to complete your classes well before your study leave period, but however there may be scenarios where you cannot complete that. In that case, you have to do a cost benefit analysis of attending the classes versus how you are going to fare if you don't attend them and do the self study for yourself. In this scenario, I would like to give you an example of how to choose and how to go about doing this cost benefit analysis. Let's say your classes for financial reporting or FR subject is remaining. Okay, so in that case, if the important topics like India's 109, which is financial instruments, or business combination is remaining to be completed, I would highly recommend you to attend those lectures and gain the benefits which you would reap from that lectures then and there itself. However, if the lectures for some small indices or some small topics which are manageable on your own or in your during your self study, okay, you can manage them. I would highly recommend you to skip those classes and utilize that time for self study, because these 4 or 5 months of the study leave are for your self studying also. But while you are attending your classes in the study leave period, Okay, so make sure that you complete that topic then and there itself. Okay, so don't leave that topic for again for further part of your study leave, because that would not only hamper your uh, flow of the studies, but it also take up more and more time uh, going forward in your studies. Okay, then completion of notes and other miscellaneous tips. So we all know that articleship has its added pressure and everything during the season time, audit season or ITR filing season. It might be possible that you may miss your classes, or you may miss valuable time for studies during that period. But make sure that whenever you're going for a study leave, you complete your notes, class notes, or your self study notes before going on your study leave. Okay, this in whatever form you can. If you prefer xeroxing your notes from your friends, do that. Taking a picture and then making prints of that, that would be better. If you are comfortable hand writing with it or hand, that would be. So any form of note completion, whichever you feel is good, you can go for it. Okay, also a important tip I would like to do is, for a practical subject, is what you can do is cross reference your question numbers in your notebook, as well as and in your textbook or the study model, whatever you are referring to. Okay, so let's say a study model has question number 1, which you have solved in book 3 of your notebook, which you have solved in notebook 3. So I would recommend that in the study module you give the reference that you have solved this sum in notebook 3. Okay, and in notebook 3 mention give a referencing to the study module where on what page that question exists. What it will do is that you will benefit this highly from during in the study leave, during a study leave, as you would save a lot of time in searching for where you have solved the sum. So the volume of CA final or any CA examination per se is so high that you may have multiple notebooks where you have solved the sums or written your theory. So this cross-referencing tip can help you save a lot of valuable time. Okay, also before going on a study leave, you should be very well versed with your what study material you are going to use. Okay, and what is the exact syllabus for that particular paper. Okay, if you go into your study leave without knowing what the syllabus is or what material you are going to use, you may lose precious 7 to 10 days there and there itself, figuring out what material to use and from where to study. So I would highly recommend that you get a grip of whatever the syllabus is before your study leave. Okay, also the next topic would be is, and which many students have conundrum, is selection of an elective paper. Okay, as you know, paper 6 in CA final is now an elective paper. Which is an open book examination, and you have an option to select from the 6 subjects. Okay, from six, you have the option to select from 6 subjects any one subject which you would like to attempt, which is obviously an open book examination. So there are a lot of consideration or factors which goes into while deciding what is going to be my elective paper. Okay, some of the considerations are factors you may ponder upon while deciding what subject you want to take up are: what is a field of interest. So if you are interested in taxation, you can very well take up international taxation. If you are fascinated with accounting standards, Ind AS or IFRS, you can go with GFRS. If you are fond with stock markets, learning about the financial services, you can go with capital markets. So this is a field of interest is very important while considering what type of elective you want to choose. Second would be your articleship experience. Okay, let's say you have got a considerable amount of articleship experience in DT or international tax. Okay, or as far as for that matter, you have audited various companies with who follow Ind AS. Okay, in that case, you can select a particular subject based upon your articleship experience as well. For me, my articleship experience was in international taxation, and that was a key driving factor for me selecting international taxation as an elective paper for my CA final examinations. Also, one of the important considerations may be a future specialization. What do you want to do after you become a CA? Like you want to grow, do your practice in taxation, or you want to take up a job in investment banking or financial services. That may also be an important factor. Also, an important factor is would be to which paper gives you the highest of the marks or better scoring opportunity. Okay, so that you may can consult with your respective seniors or any other person who have taken up that subject and take their view on what is the scoring opportunity in that particular subject. Also, an important thing is synergy benefit with the other 7 subjects. So for international tax, you have DT, 30 marks GT portion of international tax. You can combine that and reap out the synergy benefit. For economic laws, you have paper 4, which is a corporate and economic laws, where you can reap the benefits. For GFRS, you have FR subject, where you can go and lean back on that subject and gain benefits from the other 7 papers of your syllabus. So but however, one important thing is you have to select and choose upon your elective before going on your study leave. Also, for people who are into the second or third attempt or subsequent attempts, okay, I would recommend that don't change your elective paper just because you have not fared well in the previous attempt. The reason being for that, you are very well you have got acquainted with that subject, and you can very well score good marks, and you never know how the paper will turn out in the next attempt. Okay, also, but there can be an exceptional situations, like to give you a reference of a latest web series, which is TVF Aspirants. Like Abhilash wanted to change his elective for particular reasons, okay, which were the driving factor for him to change his elective subjects. If that is the case with you, I would say very well go ahead and change your elective subject. But in other scenarios, it would be better if you stick to your own elective subjects. Moving on to the how to effectively utilize your period of study leave. Okay, so period of study leave and bifurcation of timing. So in the 5 months, if you are getting 5 months of study leave, it is very much possible to complete 3 readings of your subject along with 1 paper writing. Okay, so your first reading would be a very good and elaborate reading of all the subjects. Okay, the secondary reading would be 4 to 5 days of each subject, covering all the relevant aspects like RTPs, MTPs of previous attempts or suggested answers of the previous attempt, which would help you in your preparations. And your last reading would be of 2 to 3 days on focusing on the chapters which you lack in, or the subject or the chapters which you want to get your focus on or study more importantly before your final examination. Okay, however, for people who are getting only 4 months of study leave instead of 5, what you can do is adjust your 1 month of period in subjects, completion of subjects before your study leave, like where you have to complete 3 subjects before your study leave. Okay, you can complete 4 to 5 aim for completing 4 subjects before your study leave, and continue with the other subjects after you start your study leave period. Okay, also allocation of how many days you want to give to a particular subject may depend upon likes and dislikes, okay, of a particular. So one person may like FR, so it would be easy for him to complete the subject of FR very well and in less number of days. Okay, whereas he may struggle in audit, okay, where he can allocate maximum more number of days which he has saved during studying of FR. Also, volume of the syllabus is an important aspect. So if you have realized, the volume of subject like FR and DT is humongous, and for that subjects you may need 8 to 10 days in your first reading, as well as a more number of days in the subsequent readings as well. Okay, so that is the so that in this way you can select and choose and allocate your number of days for each subject which you want to give. Okay, I have also prepared a subject wise strategy plan and action plan with how many number of days you can allocate for each subject. Okay, which the CVOCA committee will circulate to you via email after the lecture gets over, so you can very well use that document for your gain. Okay, next would be utilizing synergistic benefits to the fullest. Okay, now as I spoke earlier in the elective subject, okay, that you may reap synergistic benefits from that subject, like studying FR and GFRS together, or DT and international tax together, or there are multiple topics in law or audit which are common to both the subjects, like corporate governance or audit committee, or inspection and other chapters. So you can do both the subjects together at the same time. Okay, which what would happen is that if you have spent 10 days in FR and another 7 days in GFRS, okay, which is to, takes total to, tally together to 17 days. By studying both the subjects together, you can complete that same subject in 14 to 15 days, which may leave you with balanced 2 days, which will very well help you in the subsequent readings. Okay, so I would recommend you to formulate a strategy where you reap your benefits or synergistic benefits to the fullest. Okay, also here one more thing would be to structure your reading times uh, in such a manner that if you're studying only one subject per day, okay, you complete a particular subject in a day. Okay, if you're starting with a practical subject, then move on to a theory subject, then move on to a practical subject afterwards. Okay, which would what would this would help is that you won't get bored with the theory subject continuously, or two theory subjects won't be together, which may what would happen is that in that case you may get demotivated and you may feel what do you say, tired reading theory over and over again. However, if you like to read two subjects in a day, okay, uh, then you can bifurcate the day into practical and theory. You can read the theory in the morning, okay, when you have the when your effectivity is at the highest, and then after afternoon you can take a practical subject where you feel lethargy, or you can solve the sums and complete that subject. But one subject per day, 2 to 3 subjects per day is at your comfort. Okay, then one of the most important things, and one of the most important things which students fail to realize, is the importance of paper writing. Okay, it is essential to at least write one paper, full-fledged paper of 3 hours during your study leave, or even before that if you are completed your subject, because that is where you would get the idea of where you are lacking, what type of answers you are writing, what needs to be improved. Okay, so what I would recommend is that you at least write a full-fledged prelims, okay, after your second reading. Okay, like give 1.5 days, leave 1.5 days after each paper. So what it would do is that it would give you an idea of how to prepare for that final 1.5 days. Okay, whether you can manage your time in that thing, or whether you can complete the entire syllabus in that period. Okay, however, what, and I would also say that you write the paper in the timings of the ICAI. So I think in our time it was 2 to 5. The paper was of 2 to 5. So I used to write my papers during afternoon 2 to 5. However, I think now the timings have been shifted to 3 to 6. So accordingly, you write the paper in the times allotted by the institute without AC. I know it's hot out there, but you have to write without AC or any other thing, because that would be the actual exam conditions. Also, important thing in this COVID period is that you have to write your papers with wearing a mask. Okay, we did it, and January 21 attempt wrote their papers while wearing a mask. So you can uh, wear a mask while writing your papers, and that would give you an idea whether you can survive that 3 to 4 hours with wearing a mask and write the papers in that thing. Also, if you are lacking short of the time, or you don't have the time to give proper 15 to 16 days for your prelims, write the papers continuously on each subsequent day. Okay, so paper one, day one, paper one, day two, paper two. Okay, but try to write all the papers at a go, and not after every subject completion 4 days ka reading ho gaya, I will write a paper, then 4 days ka reading ho gaya, write a paper. Okay, if you are planning to write a second paper, you can use this approach. But if you are writing your first paper, go with the prelims approach, go with the exact exam approach. Okay, and what this paper writing would do after your second reading and before your third reading is that in your third reading you can focus on what your shortcomings were, or were you up to the mark in writing the answer what was required by the institute, and you can focus on those subjects where you are lacking behind. Okay, So this would help you in writing paper. Then coming on to what is the different types of approaches you can use for the subjects. Okay, so I mainly use 3 to 4 types of approaches. So for studying every subject, I used to go for a strategic approach. I used to first complete the chapters which had the highest weightage given by the allocated by the institute in the previous attempts, as well as the weightage chart available on the institute's website. Okay, so it's important to cover those chapters first and foremost, and then go for other chapters. Mind you that you have to cover all and every chapters and not leave a single chapter in the option. This will help you in some subjects where the MCQs are involved, to which point I will get later in my presentation. Okay, so that is a strategic approach, or ABC approach, as you may you can adopt for all the subjects. Okay, second was the keyword approach for theory subjects. Now a lot of people have doubt how to study audit, how to study law, how to write answers in them, in those subjects. I am writing good answers but I am not getting the marks. Okay, so what you can do is you can use a keyword approach for every question or every concept in audit or law paper. You remember 2 to 3 keywords of that for that very concept or answer. Okay, or if there are head pointers, okay, you remember all the head pointers and remember 2 to 3 keywords in each of the head pointers, and you formulate or create your answer revolving around those keywords while writing your answers. What it would do is that examiners usually are looking for those keywords in your answers. If they find your keywords and if your sentence formation or the meaning of that sentence is conceptually right, they would directly give you the marks for that point. Okay, irrespective of your language, irrespective of you framing the answer in your own sentences. Okay, so that keyword approach you have to do. You have to remember the head points relating to that topic, or where there are no head points, you have to bifurcate the paragraph into short pointers, and for every pointers you can highlight 2 to 3 keywords. And these keywords, while you are writing the answer in your paper, okay, you have to underline those 2 to 3 keywords. So sometimes it may happen is that by looking at those 2 to 3 keywords, the examiner may give you the marks, considering that you have written the correct keywords. So that is the keyword approach that you can adopt. Okay, for practical subjects is one approach is that, and the most important approach is that solving as many questions as you can, because reading a provision, reading a concept is way different than application of that provision or the concept. So I would recommend to solve as many questions and practice as many sums as you can, and cover all the questions which have been given by ICAI, issued by ICAI in their study material, RTPs, MTPs, and any other material uploaded by them. That is the key to succeeding in practical subjects. You have to do all the ICAI practice questions compulsorily. Okay, another method is method of elimination. So now is that you have a lot of questions. There is an ocean of questions for any particular topic which you may come across. Okay, in that case, what you have to do is at every reading you have to eliminate some questions which you feel that you can easily solve them even if you don't look at them. Okay, you have to eliminate those questions. So at the end of the third reading and before a last day of revision, okay, which is a 1.5 days revision, you only have the questions in your book which cover a particular concept in its entirety, so that you don't have to look at the concept's theory again, and those type of questions which you find difficult and which you won't be able to solve if you don't see one day before your examination. Those are the only 2 types of questions you should aim at targeting in the third reading and your last day revision. Okay, so this you can do by method of elimination. First reading mein you would be comfortable with certain set of questions. Okay, in the second reading you have to eliminate some questions out of that which you are comfortable with. So that is the method of elimination which you can follow. Next is the importance of handwritten summary notes. Okay, so as I said, keyword approach, using a keyword approach, or would reap you benefits more when you have your handwritten summary notes prepared while during the first reading or the second reading also. Okay, so you can include in a handwritten notes if the subject contains formulas, include the formulas. If it contains some important concepts, cover those concepts. For some practical subjects, there is a whole sum which only has one difficult adjustment. Okay, so you can note down that adjustment and make a summary of what is the effect of that adjustment. Okay, which would help you in not referring the whole sum again, and you can only just glance through the adjustment and move ahead in your further studies. Okay, so that would be important for handwritten notes, and these handwritten notes or one pager notes for each chapter would help you 2 to 3 hours before your examination, or also in the last day revision, where you don't have the time to go through the whole of the module or whole of the notes from which you are studying. So it is important to make handwritten summary notes. Okay, also you can use summary notes provided by various authors which are available in the market, or you may have gotten it from your class. But in those summary notes, you make sure that you cover, and while during the first and second reading, you cover all those points which are missing from that summary notes. Like there might be some point in your study module which is not getting covered in the summary notes, but it is important for you to know, or for to solve a sum. You note that provision, or you note that concept in your summary notes, which would then help you in the last day revision, and you don't have to switch between the books on your last day of revision, which is the 1.5 days before the examination. Okay, so moving forward, what are the factors, study material, what type of study material you have to use? Okay, so for me, I used majority of my study material was my ICIs or institute issued study modules and institute issued RTPs, MTPs, or suggested answers, and a few notes from the class. You can get the details of what type of study material you can use in my subject wise strategy document. So I won't spend much time over here discussing this over here. Okay, but whatever you do, okay, don't switch your study materials in between of readings. Okay, you have to complete your study material. You have to stick to your study material which you have used for your first reading, or which you have referred during to your lectures or self study. Don't change your study materials just because you have you don't have luck with the previous study material. This would only lead and add to confusion. Okay, another thing is ICI keeps on adding new materials. Okay, right now, so before the postponement came, ICI added in March new case study digest or MCQ scenario booklets. It's uploaded on its website for the students to refer for May 21 attempt. Okay, in that scenario, what if you have less time and you don't have the time to refer to those institute uploaded material? Okay, what you can do is decide whether go through the material which institute has uploaded once. Okay, and go through whether it contains new type of questions, whether it contains new concepts. If it contains new concepts, do those questions which contain the new concepts. However, if you have studied well and you have good conceptual knowledge, okay, over that topic, you can very well go ahead and just glance through it, or even may skip it, because you can answer that question on your based on your conceptual knowledge. Okay, so that is the relating to, this was the confusion a lot of students had when the new material was issued in March. So you have to do a cost benefit analysis here as well, whether it will reap you benefits or not. Okay, for students with their attempt further down the line, like November 21 or May 22, okay, you have got the time, so you can cover those materials, and I would highly recommend you to cover that material along with your reading as well, because that would be the material from which the institute would be asking you questions, or based on which the institute would be asking you questions. Okay, also important here is to many a times a lot of reference books don't cover the things which are covered in your study module. So it is important to at least you have to refer to the study module for those little things. So for giving my example, in our November 2020 law examination, okay, there were some questions which were right out of the modules table, or concise charts, or some part of the thing which lot of authors hadn't covered in their books. Okay, but it was there in the module. Okay, and which were relevant part of the acts as well. Okay, So I had read the module, so I could answer the questions. But many of my friends who didn't knew that such type of concepts exist, okay, couldn't attempt those questions. So it's important to, at least refer to once to your study module as well. Coming to the newly introduced 30 marks of MCQs, whether do you consider is that as a boon or a curse? I would say definitely say it's a boon, where you are benefited from those 30 marks of MCQs, where you just have to select one right answer. Though it might be confusing, but you have a good chance of scoring at least 80% of the marks there. So out of 30, you may score 24 to 25 in MCQs, which is what 24 marks out of the 40 marks for passing is a good head start. Very well. For MCQs, don't go and refer to various books available of various authors in the market. Do the MCQs from the institute issued MCQs and the new MCQs and case scenarios digests. Okay, so that from this is where you would get the idea of what type of questions the institute would ask and what type of MCQs are expected from it. Okay.
Ayush,
Also,
if you can
as I
just see your
mentioned,
chat box, please.
yeah. Okay, sure. Second, just focus on all the chapters, because there might be a scenario where the case scenario, MCQ case scenarios might get covered from a particular chapter as well. Okay, and also focus on numericals and factual data for the while reading for the MCQ purposes. Also, whatever you would have learned in your articleship, okay, and during your articleship might help you during your studies, like some portion of direct tax or some portion of the law, okay, which would help in which will help you in studying during our examples. Also, keep in touch with your seniors who have just recently passed out, or they are the best persons to guide you with the best of their knowledge, because they are the ones who have completed their attempts recently. Okay, so moving forward, I will come on to the main topic, one of the important topics, which is how to study during the COVID period. Okay, so most of you would be with the postponement and indefinite postponement. Okay, you would be nervous and getting anxiety of how to study. What you can do is that first and foremost, after the postponement notice, I'm sure that you would have rested and refreshed yourself well. You would have taken a 4 to 5 days break, complete break, no touching the books at all. Okay, which would help which if you have not taken those, I would recommend take that break and get refreshed from all the materials. Okay, then you can then go and slowly start back by starting 5 hours a day, gradually increase that 1 hour in 3 to 4 days. Okay, so after 4 days you would be studying for 6 hours, and after another 4 days you would be studying for another 6 hours. Okay, so you can gradually increase and get back to the groove in that way. Okay, also as Preeti ma'am rightly said that you would have a 25 days notice. I would say you have a clear plan in place for that 25 days. How would you cover each and every subject in that 25 days before your final examinations? Okay, that would go a long way, help you long way in getting your degree. Okay, also the main thing right now is to keep yourself motivated and take care of your mental health. Don't get whatever keeps you do whatever keeps you sane to get refreshed. Okay, but it is important not to lose your way during the examination, or not the attitude that we have a lot of time कि भाई बहुत टाइम है अभी हम आराम से पढ़ सकते हैं. Get in your way and ruin all your efforts made during the last 2 or 3 or 4 months which you have done. Okay, so don't let that come, and any wrong step would cost you your attempt immediately. Okay, this is harsh, but it is reality. Okay, but so don't take it lightly. okay, and keep it what is your end motive or what is your dream in picture. Okay, what is your dream? To become a CA? Yes. For what? To, you know, to achieve your dream? Maybe, possibly. To gain money? Possibly, yes. To, you know, to gain respect of the society? Yes. But the biggest motivator is seeing your parents smile on the day of the result after you have cleared your CA finals and you have become CA. Okay, that moment or that feeling is the most precious feeling than even than getting a CA degree in your hand. Okay, so in that, so just to quote another reference from TVF aspirants. Okay, कछुआ कछुआ जानते हो, नॉर्मल रेस नहीं है भाई, ये मैराथन है, खरगोश नहीं जीतता है, यहाँ जीतता है तो कछुआ. So you have to take the CA final preparations as a marathon and not as a sprint. You know, keep studying each and every day. You cannot cover everything in those 25 days. So go small, go incremental. Use Kaizen concept if you can link to that. Okay, so that is an important motivation for that during the COVID period where people have students have a lot of anxiety. Okay, I would just like to conclude with a quote. It is better to sweat in practice than to bleed in war. Okay, पसीना छूटेगा अभी यहाँ पे चलेगा, but एग्जाम के टाइम पे एक भी ड्रॉप खून का नहीं गिरना चाहिए. With that, I would like to conclude my session. Thank you so much for your attention and hearing.
Thank you, Ayush, for guiding the students what they should do during their study leave. And I am sure that we'll have many more All India rankers in CVO in the years to come. Now over to you, Jyoti madam.
Absolutely, that's the hope.
Yeah. Now over to you, Jyoti ma'am. You can start the session.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jigar. Thank you, CVO CA Association, for giving me this opportunity to present in front of our students, our children. Thank you, Jigar. Thank you, Paras. I was coordinating with Parin, so thank you, Parin. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, after an inning of Virat Kohli, I think then it is the turn of Bumrah to do his job. So you know that we can win the match. So obviously the parameters of success lie in proper adequate preparation and appropriate presentations, obviously. So which means that yes, Ayush has given you the guideline about how you prepare, but then I think my job today as an ex-examiner would be to guide you probably about how you can save, you know, small marks, because I think each and every one who's attending the seminar right now, right here, knows how much even a mark you know, can cost you. At times I think a single mark can cost you even 6 months, wherein you know, so it's either now or never. So in spite of you know, all your preparations, maybe whether you do it for a year, whether you do it for 2 years, or for as long as you do, until and unless you are able to present in those 3 hours, I think nothing makes sense. So it's going to cost you 6 months in spite of all your preparations, which means that first and foremost thing is maintaining your writing practice. Ayush has already delivered on how you can do your writing practice. I re-emphasize this, your writing practice, which means that you keep writing so that you're having your writing speed intact. Doing your writing practice to keep your things thorough is a different thing, but I insist on doing writing practice so that you are having the speed enough so that you can finish your papers, because you may know everything, but it makes no sense at all if you're not able to finish your papers and present it in the papers. I hope you all agree to what I'm saying. Yeah. So whatever I'm saying is not something which is rocket science. Maybe all that I'm going to say is something which you already know. But when something is told, that is re-emphasized in your mind. And that's the reason why I'm going to say some basic things which probably you already know. But the moment I say something, you're going to relate to it. Yeah, I had already thought about this, and maybe you're going to practice it in future. And that's my intention of the day. Before I even come to the actual presentation part, let me share a few more things. Being, you know, I am the faculty of the GMCS, so I'm sort of used to talking a lot. Yeah, so which means that first and foremost thing, I think we are not just talking about the short-term goals and the short-term successes. We are thinking about our success even after we've qualified and become a chartered accountant. Yeah, so the first and foremost thing, See that you have a nice smile on your face. The reason is because a smile is something that helps you to connect to people. So to have a nice smile on your face. Before I say anything more, as I represent the Institute, I want to promise from each and every one of you here now, because you are all representing the Institute in different ways. Maybe I have several chartered accountants here. I have several students here. We're all representing the Institute. I have a promise here. I want to promise here from the students here that they will never ever be in loose talks. Okay, generally when the students are very depressed, so you start going on a loose talk about the Institute. So please make a promise that you are not going to share your frustrations with outsiders. We have to maintain our own dignities, being members, being even students of the Institute. See that you can ensure that you are maintaining the dignity of the Institute. When I talk about the Institute, I would give you the example of a sprinter. Okay, the sprinter, if you're aware, they practice on a slope. And the reason they do is so that, when they have to run on a plain ground, it becomes much more easier. So I would say the Institute today is preparing you for a challenge or for any challenge in your life after you have qualified, so that you can face any challenge in your future, giving you the most difficult scenarios wherein you are able to face each and every challenge in your life easily. And that is the job of our Institute today, wherein it is preparing you for a challenging future in future. Yeah. So, what you think about yourself matters much more than anybody else thinks about you. Have confidence in your own self. That is something which is more important. Learn to disassociate yourself from people who give you negative vibes. You've taken up a course which is going to take a lot of strength, a lot of determination, a lot of focus, and a lot of hard work. But if you have people around you who keep saying all the time, yaar, tere se nahi hone wala, chhod de, jane de, chhod de, it will never happen. Okay, so learn to disassociate yourself from people who give you negative vibes. That's very important. In the evening right now, I'm assuming that you're not feeling hungry. Yeah, the reason is because I'm going to offer you a pizza. But the catch here is that I'm offering you only the base of the pizza. Are you going to like only the base of the pizza? Well, I'm assuming that the answer is no, because nobody likes just the base of the pizza. But this base of the pizza is the degree that you're going to achieve when you've qualified. Okay, which means that it is the topping on the pizza which makes you enticing. So this topping is the set of skills that you're going to accumulate. So focus on the set of skills which you think you are good at. Each one of you is unique in some different way, but you must be able to identify your own USPs, your own strengths, so that you can build and grow on it. Yeah. So these are certain things that you need to keep in mind before you even strive to clear your examinations. Okay. Ensure, yes, you have to do a lot of writing practice to ensure just that, so that you can finish your papers. And that's the reason why you have to do it. Before I even give you tips on what you need to keep in mind when you're going to write your papers, there's one thing which I need to say. Very often, being very close to the students, what I have heard is the complex and the fears which students have even after having qualified when they have taken a few more attempts to clear their examinations. Because I think you eventually have to face the question which says, why should we even engage you or hire you, because you've taken so many attempts to clear your examinations. Okay, my tip, my advice here to you is that the number of attempts is relevant only for the first job. Okay, once you're done with the first job, in your following jobs, it's only your work experience which is going to matter. Nobody is going to then ask you the number of attempts you've taken to clear your examinations. So if you have this fear, get over this fear. Be bold to face the fear. Okay, there are several ways how you can face the situation even if you have not cleared the examinations. So it is your confidence here which is going to matter here. So be confident to face situations. Not everybody is perfect. Not everybody knows everything. Okay, so have these things uppermost in your mind that not everybody knows everything. Okay, so coming to the presentation, because I think we're falling short of time. So let me try to cover about the small things which you need to keep in mind, where maybe, as I told you, maybe just a mark also can at times cost you your entire another 6 months. We all having challenging times today, challenging scenarios, challenging circumstances, and a new challenging world today. And like Ayush said that you even have to probably give your examinations with a mask on, you know. So we are actually facing a new scenario wherein today we are here in a virtual mode of discussing things. So we are all facing a new world and new challenges today. But in spite of that, our basic challenges still remain the same. Yeah. Yes. So first and foremost thing, after you, the first and foremost thing that you can remember is, unfortunately, if you're not able to clear your examinations in spite of all the things which you keep in mind and all your preparations, etc., for whatever reason, just remember that after you have not, if at all, in case you're not able to clear your examinations, the first and foremost thing that you need to do is to go and refer to the suggesteds. The reason is because the suggesteds is the base, the model on the basis of which you are going to be evaluated. Okay, so you may say that, okay, ma'am, we can get this from any other book. Why should we do? Why should we study? Why should we go and refer to the suggesteds? I would say look at the suggesteds because you have all the answers at one place. You don't need to hunt for the answers everywhere. What I suggest is that the suggesteds are a mode of communication of the institute with you to tell you this is what was desirous of you. This is what you are supposed to write. And this is what you have written. By the time your results come, at times, you still remember, not at times, I would say always, you remember what you had written in the examinations. It's not too very late. So when you look at the suggestions, you'll come to know where you went wrong in the presentation part, because there is a way of acceptance wherein you're supposed to maybe introduce an answer, the body of the answer, and how you needed to conclude it. So it's only when you look at the suggestions, you come to know what was expected from you by the institute, since there's no oral mode of communication from the institute towards you. So this is one way of communication of the institute to you, that this is how they were expecting you to write the answer. So in case you're not able to clear your examinations, the first and foremost thing should be that you refer to the suggesteds whenever they are published, so that you know where you went wrong, so that you do not repeat your mistakes. Okay, the next thing, these are things which I am sharing on the basis of the experiences which I have had as an examiner. Okay, so of course, what I have seen very often is that students sort of, in spite of the fact that you have no paucity of stationery, there is a lot of cramming which happens in the paper. Okay, so which means that whenever you're writing your answers, please ensure that each new answer starts from a fresh page so that the examiner is able to differentiate between the different answers. When you cram your answers, there is no line even left in between. So, you know, the examiner doesn't even come to know where the answer has got over and where the new answer has started. So it doesn't mean that you start a sub-question from a new page, but yes, every new answer has to necessarily start from a new page. You need to remember this. Another thing that you can remember would be keeping all the answers together. Okay, you decide if there are 7 questions, you have to decide any 6. The first question generally is compulsory, and another 5 questions out of 6. So in these 5 questions, if at all there are say about 4 sub questions. Another sub question, if there is a question, when you think, for example, there are A, B, C, and D, and you know A, B, and C very well, and you're not very sure of the answer to the D. My suggestion here is keep all the answers together. Don't break the entire set of questions. Okay, if you don't know C, if you don't know the answer to, if you're not very sure of the answer to question number D, keep that answer together, which means that you have to leave a page blank in between so that you can come to it after you finished all the answers that you know of, so that you can attempt this question when you have finished the other answers. When I'm saying this, it doesn't get over here, because then you have to, if you're not able to come back to this answer to write this answer, okay, you have to ensure that you cancel this page. The reason is because if you don't cancel this page, there is a probability and a possibility that the examiner may not just turn the pages at all, not knowing that there are answers which are written behind that blank page. Okay, so when I'm saying that you need to leave a blank page in between, I'm also adding here that you need to strike off or cancel the page which you have left blank in between, because it can be very dangerous and you may lose marks. And at times the recourse to correct things which have happened at the time of evaluation is very stringent and very difficult. So we have to ensure that we are giving less opportunities to the examiners to make mistakes when they're evaluating your papers. Yeah, the reason is because you may think, I am having so much stress when I'm writing my papers. Okay, how much I have to study? There's such a lot of volume. The papers are so long. The questions are so difficult. Okay, in spite of all that, remember that the examiner is also under equal stress when the examiner is evaluating your papers. So which means that try to make your presentations as lucid, as neat, as much clean as possible, so that you make it easy for the examiner to evaluate your papers. Ensure that you don't make too many scratchings and cancellations in between. One thing which I have observed, in your records of thinking that you're too very stressed, I have seen students even writing a wrong question number. Okay, so which means that please ensure, in spite of whatever stress you think you have, you need to write the question numbers properly. The reason is because you will agree with me that your question number is the only way of identifying your answer. So which means that when you go into a category, when you're really scoring very well, there is always a possibility and a probability that the examiner can go back, and the examiner has a right to give you a 0 for a question number which is written wrong, because the identity of the answer is wrong when you've given a wrong question number. I hope you are understanding what I'm trying to say, that you have to, it is a very basic, very preliminary, very primary thing. But then, yes, I have seen students doing such kind of mistakes. It is totally the call of the examiner, whether to cut your mark here or not, whether to give you a 0 or not. But let me add here, the examiner has a right to give you a 0 because your answer is identified only by the question number, and the examiner can give you a 0, especially when you're going into a exemption category. So be very, very cautious of this when you're writing the question number. I think everybody knows here that you don't need to rewrite the question numbers, the entire question. So please don't rewrite the question, because you'll be wasting your time doing that. In a scenario when you think you're writing a quality answer is an answer which you think you know very well. Okay, it's an answer which you would say that, okay, I can even write in my sleep. At times what happens is that you write the entire answer and then you realize, oh my God, this answer is for 8 marks and my answer seems to be very small. Now what do I do here? My experience again says here is that you try to add nonsense to this answer just to make this answer big. And eventually what happens is that you are now exposing your ignorance by writing irrelevant things in an answer which was otherwise written nicely just to make it long. And eventually what happens is that you get negative marks from what you've already earned. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is that whenever you have the confidence that you have written a very good answer, even if your answer is not filling the entire page, have the confidence to leave it here. Okay, you must have the confidence that I have written enough and it is sufficient and enough. Another very important thing that you can keep in mind is that whenever a question, at times maybe you must have very often seen that a question is asked for 8 marks. And this question in this examination, they've asked you only for 4 marks. And then you are flabbergasted, not knowing what to do. Because this is an exam, this is an answer which scores otherwise 8 marks. And then you don't know what to do. Okay, so what you need to do here is, if this question has been asked for 4 marks now here, it means that you give all the 8 points. It doesn't mean that since the question, 8-mark question is asked for 4 marks, you write only 4 points. You write all the 8 points, but you use your intelligence when you're reducing the explanation that you're giving per se a point. Which means that you're giving entire 8 points and not just 4 because it's a 4-mark question. You give entire 8 points, and in those 8 points, you're reducing the explanation so that you're giving an entire answer. I'm re-emphasizing here, every mark costs you. Okay, and it can maybe, a single mark also can cost you 6 months. So be very careful, be very wary of what you're writing, how you're presenting it. Now for a true and false. Now, there are different marks which are allocated for true and false and for the reason. Until and unless you're not sure at all about what the reason is, I would suggest write some reason. Until and unless your reason is absolute rubbish and nonsense, you will get some marks for writing the true. Because if your true or false is right, you sure shot get an answer. You get a mark for writing the true and the false. Until and unless your reason is absolute rubbish and nonsense, you will definitely get some mark for that. Okay, so which means that yes, you have to write the reason until and unless you are not you don't know the reason at all, because there are different marks for writing a true and a false. Whenever you're writing a differentiate between, the best way to write a difference between is to tabulate the answers, okay, in a T form. The reason is because it's very simple and easy to compare and to get marks, because it's a lucid way of presentation when you give answers in a T form. Yeah, whenever you're not very sure of the answer, you can give it in a tabular form. The reason is because then it becomes difficult for the examiner to compare the answers and give you marks. But when you're very sure of the difference between answer, give it in a tabular form, because it becomes very easy for the examiner to check your answer and to maybe give you good enough marks. So this is that this is something that you need to keep in mind. Okay, now whenever you have been asked to solve a question, and when there is a particular method which has been stipulated, it is essentially necessary that you solve your answer in that particular method only, because otherwise, even if your answer is correct, the institute or the examiner can give you a wrong or a 0 mark, because you've not solved your answer by the method which has been stipulated. If there are different judgments, ensure that you give your answers in whichever judgment you are following, so that you can justify the answer that you gain. If there are two outlets, two approaches, give both the judgment. This judgment is saying this and that judgment is saying this, which means that when you're writing something on paper, you must have the ability to justify your answers. Okay, keep small things in mind. In a true and a false, always remember, very important, whenever you don't have to give a reason, when you're just giving a true and a false, never ever change the sequence of the true false. The reason is because the sequence of the true and false is memorized by the examiner. I'm telling you the practical approach of an examiner. They are generally memorized by the examiner, saying that, for example, if it is A, B, C, and D, they would say it is correct, incorrect, correct, incorrect. A, B, C, D is correct, incorrect, correct, incorrect. And you are changing the sequence for whatever reason. I've seen this happen, wherein you write the B first, you write A or second, and then you write D and whatever. You change the sequence. So you're correct, incorrect, correct, incorrect. Now it has changed. And so, if you have written, your answer may be right, but since you've changed the sequence, your correct, incorrect has become an incorrect, correct, incorrect, correct. Your answer may be right, but since your question numbers have been changed, the examiner will not have the time to go and check whether you've written the right, whether you've jumbled it or not. For the examiner, it will be wrong. You may get a 0. So it can really cost you your 4 marks if at all your answer is correct. And for some smartness, you're just trying to change the sequence of the questions. So please don't do that. So, so don't ever change, especially when there is no reason to be given. Please don't change the sequence of the true, false, or incorrect and correct. Whenever you think, Parin, should I continue? I think, should I continue with what I'm saying? Can you give me some more time?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please continue.
Okay. Whenever, if you think some questions, you think that you really don't know the answer at all. Now, let me tell you, when you don't know an answer, and when you think that you are going to write absolute rubbish, in spite of that, I would advise, don't ever just leave a question and come thinking that you don't know the answer. The reason is because each and every answer, even if it is just started well, you may not write the entire question, you may not write the entire answer, you may not attempt the entire answer, but just making a good beginning can fetch you some marks, at times 1 mark, at times 2 marks, and you know the value of these accumulated 1 or 2 marks. Okay, for about 5 questions, and you're just starting an answer very well, and you just get 1 mark for each good start. I think 5 marks, and I think every CA student knows the value of these 5 marks. Just make a beginning, at least attempt the question, even if you've written entire rubbish. This is if you have time, not otherwise. Even if you've written entirely rubbish, your good marks will not be affected. Which means that even if you have written a very nonsensical answer, and if you have scored entirely 8 out of 8 in a very good answer, they will not go and deduct your marks from the answer where you have scored very well. Okay, so don't leave an answer just thinking that you don't know the answer. You have to make a beginning, try to attempt whatever you can to score whatever you can. This is if you have time. This has to be something which you do at the end. Like I said, I give you an example wherein you said, I said that probably A, B, C, D, you're not really very sure of D answer. You can come to this D answer when if you're having time after you've written all your answers. And then when you have time, probably you can then attempt such an answer wherein you will get at least some grace marks. Whenever there are scenarios, when there are scenarios wherein you get probably, somewhere like a 38, 39 marks, there is always a review which is done of your papers to see whether you can be given any grace mark. An examiner with the heart will definitely give you grace marks. But let me tell you, at times, these marks which you have got for writing answers which may not be absolutely good and correct, all these are all grace marks which you have otherwise earned. So it is possible that you've already earned, say, about 7 to 8 grace marks. Then the exam, if you've got 39, then the examiner may not have, hard to give you that even 1 mark more. So that may be a scenario wherein you're not able to get even 40, and then you start, causing the examiner, saying that, "Yaar, meko to 1 mark bhi nahi diya." But probably this is the reason why it happens. And let me tell you, once the examiner has given you the marks, nobody has a right to give you any more marks. So there is no point in trying to, cause the institute and saying that, "Yaar, humko fail kar diya," because the examiners per se between themselves have no coordination or communication between themselves to make a conspiracy thinking that, okay, humko ek bacche ko fail karna hai. Okay, that never happens because there is no conspiracy, there is no coordination, there is no communication between the examiners thinking that we have to fail some student. That will never happen. Okay, so which means that if you have done an absolutely good presentation, there is no reason why you have to not clear your examination. So have that confidence. For those who are not able to probably put in 100%, my advice here could be that for every answer, think positively that even if you can just score 50% in every answer, also it is enough to score 50%. So yeah, even if 50% every answer, not even every answer, but of course in some of the answers you can do very well. But every answer, even if you score 50% of the marks, you can still clear your examinations. So I would say that clearing CA examinations is really not so very difficult. Probably you're not, you're probably missing out somewhere, probably in the preparation or in the presentation, and that could be the reason why you're not able to, maybe clear your examinations. Coming to practical and theory, maybe I'll try to wrap up in 5 minutes, Parin. Yeah, because I think we're running short of time now. I'll take 5 more minutes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Another thing which you need to remember, for each and every one of you here, a saturation point. Each one of us as human beings, we have a saturation point. Saturation point is the time when you're so very mentally tired that you are not able to retain or remember anything that you have studied. My advice here is, please ensure that this saturation point does not come just before the examination. Okay, because when this happens, whatever amount of studies, whatever amount of efforts you've put in, you will not be able to put it in at the time of examination. So this saturation point has to be taken at the right time so that you refresh yourself, so that your brain is fresh enough, so that at the time of examinations, you are able to retain and represent in the examination. Okay, so which means that even in your study leave, at the time when you're studying, have gaps, have a proper gap in your examination, in your timetable, so that you take a break on a day. Secondly, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to study anything at all. I'm going to maybe watch a movie, listen to music, do whatever you like, so that you are not mentally tired and you are fresh enough at the time of your examinations. This is called a saturation point, and each one of you must have the ability to recognize this saturation point so that you are fresh at the time of your examinations. Okay, have enough, learn to apply your concepts. It's just not enough to learn theory. Okay, you may know how to drive a car. You know that you have to press the accelerator to speed in the car. You know that you have to put the brakes, you have to stop the car. But if you don't do this at the right time, there's no point in just knowing it. Okay, so learn to apply the concepts. It's not just enough to know the concepts. You must know how to apply these concepts, and that is very important. Okay, So, Preeti ma'am already, advised you saying that it really is of no essence trying to give your examination from different places. And just because you're giving from a new place, it's not necessary that you're going to clear your examinations. The reason is because these papers of yours can go to any examiner, any part of a country. It's not that it is in Mumbai, you're going to get evaluated here, or just because you're getting, you're attempting from some other place, so you're going to get evaluated. These papers can go to any part of the country for evaluation purposes. So there is no reason why you will clear because you're going and attempting from a particular place. Yeah, so Ayush also mentioned about allotting the number of number of days for a particular subject. My suggestion here would be that each and every student has a different methodology of study. Okay, each and every student has a different way of grasping things. Some may be very good at theory, some may be very good at practical. So each and everybody has a different potential. So make your timetables as per your potential, because nobody else can plan your studies. You can decide how many number of pages you can study on a number of days. But once you have made your timetable, then it is your duty and your job to ensure that you are abiding by this timetable. But this timetable has to be made by you, because nobody else can make this for you, because you know your potential and how much you can study on a day and how much you can grasp and how much you can retain. So nobody else definitely can make you can make a timetable for you. But once you make this timetable, how you abide by this timetable is totally your duty and your job. How you're going to do this. And just last one thing that I would like to add here is that whenever you are attempting any theory in a practical paper, okay, you should take a call here, because when you're answering a theoretical answer in a practical paper, there is a probability and a possibility that a practical answer may fetch you maybe say 8 out of 8 if your answer is absolutely correct. But when you are attempting a theory answer in a practical paper, there is a probability in a theory you may not get 8 out of 8. So it's a call which you're taking, whether you're trying to forfeit the entire 8 mark of your practical, or whether you're trying to score say even 5-6 marks in your theory. So you have to keep that in mind, that a theory probably may not be able to fetch you the entire 8 out of 8 marks. That is something that you need to keep in remember. One more last very important thing, please let me add here. Whenever you are solving a sum in a practical paper, and when you think that you're not able, after you've solved the paper, and then you find that after you've solved this, you come to know that your answer is not correct. And if you're having enough time, only then you resolve the entire sum. And then if you've got the right answer, only then go and cancel that answer which you think is wrong. The reason is because you get marks for each and every step, and it is not for the answer in entirety. So it means that you will get marks for whatever steps you've done correctly. So until and unless you have enough time to go to resolve the entire sum and do it entirely correctly, never ever cancel a sum just because you think it is wrong, because you will otherwise get marks for all those steps that you've written correctly. I have tried to share a few things which I thought were really very relevant that you need to keep in mind when you're writing your papers. I hope this is going to be helpful for you. I again thank CVO CA Association for giving me this opportunity to address the students here today. I wish you all the best, students, so that you all come out in flying colors, so that you become members of the institute very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti madam. I'm sure your practical experience will really help the students. Now I'll ask Parin to take up a few questions.
Yeah, we have few questions. First one, maybe I'll start with Ayush. Ayush, the question is, what is the way to retain the things for a longer time, like in the leave period till the exams date? So probably the student wants to ask, what is the any key idea to have retained whatever you have read or whatever you have studied for a longer period of time?
Okay. So to answer this question, so what this usually is the case during the theory subjects, where you have a lot of information to retain with yourself. So one of the approach what you can use, and what I used, is whatever I suppose it's Monday, okay, whatever the things I learned or studied on Monday, okay, I made sure that on Tuesday morning, okay, or on Tuesday before going to sleep, okay, I used to revise for 30 minutes or 30 to 45 minutes all the stuff which I had read on the previous day. Okay, what it helps is that is where you can, when continuous revising helps you to retain things more and more. And I think that is a good way to approach and retain things. And what else you can do is you can, make mind maps, or relate that particular thing or concept to the particular thing which you have already experienced, or like something in your articleship, or like you are something, funny incidents which you can relate it to, or something like that. So you can, assign something to an image which would help you to retain at least the base concept, if not the entire theory. But you can retain only when you continuously revise that particular thing, which you can, do by allotting half an hour for revising previous stuff every day. I hope this
Great,
answers your
Ayush.
question.
Yeah, Jyoti ma'am, you would like to add on this?
Yeah, as per my experience, what I would advise the students is that whenever, last moment studies, like Ayush already said, this is 1.5 days when they have to revise the entire thing. Here, what happens is, very often when you have a point form, you're just jotting down everything, like he said, the keywords, last moment studies does help you when you have your own notes which you have made, where you're just writing down all the, maybe, just the explanation is something which can be done, but the header, it helps you. So maybe at times, short notes in the form of just having these headers does help you. This is probably, this is how even I used to study when I was studying. You make a header and this is a ready reference for you, wherein it saves you a lot of time and you're confident that, okay, I'll be able to explain the answer, but this is a header which I need to remember. So maybe, a short form of forming your own notes in your own handwriting does help you a lot.
I think that's perfectly answered by both of our speakers. So whatever you write, that means that you need to remember. So making the notes is also one of the key aspects while you are studying. Perfect. Jyoti ma'am, one question that suppose there are subsequent attempt students, and what should they do to improve, as they may be unaware of the mistakes which they might be committing?
Parin, I already said the reason why the mistakes are repeatedly done again and again at times are because they don't refer to the suggesteds. And I already said that suggesteds are the model answers of the examiners, and they have to be referred to know how a particular answer had to be written. My personal perception is that the reason why in general, it becomes difficult in the second, third and fourth attempt to clear examinations is because probably at times there are so many changes which are happening every 6 months. Our studies, our line is so very volatile that every 6 months there are some changes happening. So which means that a student has to learn and then unlearn what he has learned and then learn something new. I think that is the challenge when there are new attempts, more attempts which are given. So I feel that it is easier when you give a first and a second attempt, and that's the reason why the level of difficulty is elevated when you're taking more attempts, because the course by the time is having new changes which are happening. So they have to use supplementaries, and then there is a doubt about which is correct, whether this is correct or which is that is correct, and what needs to be applied, and whether the institute is going to take this or whether it's going to take that. So probably these are the challenges when you're taking a few more attempts, and that's the reason why the level of difficulty elevates when you're giving few more attempts. That is because of the redundancy of the materials that you're using. Ayush has already said that he has studied from the examination materials. I can add here to all the students, please be sure of the material which you are referring from, because this has been my experience that you use erroneous material which is not complete, in terms of topics, not complete in terms of the entire subject, and you've never ever opened the modules, and then you think that your institute is asking questions from outside the syllabus, but you've never ever tried to even read the module, so you don't even know the quantity or what it is, the portion which was covered in the modules. So you have to, even if you think that the module is very difficult for you to read, it is necessary whichever material you are referring to, you have to ensure before the examinations or before you even start your studies that your material is complete in terms of the topic and complete in terms of all the topics which is at least compare it with the modules. You may use the language which is there in the supplementary books, in the other books, the other authors' books or classes or whatever, but you have to at least ensure that these books are complete. because I have found at times that the answers are absolute rubbish, and there are about say 5 to 6 students giving the same rubbish answers, so which is proof that they're all referring to the same nonsensical book, and that's the reason why you write the same thing and you think, yeah, I have written this, and you go and write this in the same the same nonsense in every examination, then you don't clear the examination, and then you start blaming the institute. So maybe there are some introspections which the students need to do before they even attempt the examinations or even before they start their studies.
So that's very important, that whichever material which you are referring to, kindly validate the material.
Yes,
before starting your studies. Yeah, one more question is there in theory subject. So this is a very good question, I would say. Okay, in practical subjects, whether it is advisable to study theory or practical sums which the students solve in the exams are enough to score marks and clear the same.
Ayush, would you like to answer this?
Ayush,
because
yes, yeah. So this is a common misconception that you have to, for practical subject, you only have to study practical, or for theory, you only have to study theory. If you now see costing, which was earlier practical, is now is 70 to 80% theory. Okay, in FR and subjects like SFM also, you have compulsory theory questions as well. And in FR as well, there are various chances where they ask theory questions. So you have to study for the theory questions and not just focus on the practical, because what would happen is that even if there are 20 marks allotted for the theory questions, 4 marks each for 5 questions, even if you write something or the other and relevant points, 2 or 3 points, there is a possibility that you might get 2 marks or 3 marks if the quality of the answer is good. And that 2 or 3 marks for every question adds up to 10 marks, and that is very important thing. So apart from the practical, you have to focus on the theory as well. So institute does not in any practical paper, like you say for FR or you say for DT or IDT, okay, they just don't focus on the application part. They also, there might be a case study type of questions where you have to, write the theory answers by applying the concept in theory and not just solve the sums. Okay, and that is the where you can, utilize and use your conceptual understanding and gain marks. Okay, so I would definitely recommend to study theory as well in the practical subject, because that might turn out to be a game changer.
Yeah, I'll just add here that probably in a theory, I already said that maybe in a theory you may not be able to earn the entire, say about 4 out of 4. Like Ayush already said, maybe 2 out of 4, but then at times rather than getting a 0 because you don't know the answer to the practical question at all, so 2 out of 4 is better than getting nothing at all. So it's a strategy which has to be made at the time of examination. Nobody can plan it for you. It has to be done by the student at that time. Okay, whether it's a 0 or whether it's a 2, it is a strategy which has to be made at the examination. But of course, the theory cannot be let out saying that it's a practical examination, so I'm going to do only practical. But then theory is definitely going to fetch you less than what a practical answer can, if it's correct, can fetch you, because a practical answer will give you 8 out of 8. A theory may not, even if it's an excellent answer, there is a probability that you may not get 4 out of 4, even if it's an excellent answer. So that has to be kept in mind. So it's a strategy made at that moment.
Correct. In presenting answers for theory subjects, there is a question that we have to write strictly as per module or the words, or if it's fine if they go conceptual clarity and write the answers in their own words.
I think Ayush already delved on this when he said that the examiners are searching for keywords and the answers involving. I think this was taken up by him.
Suggested answers which are given by institute. I think that will be a key help.
No, see, Parin, the reason is because the suggested also are having a language which is at a very high level, because they generally, the answers which are there in the modules, the suggested are not going to have very easy answers. So generally what I have seen is that students like to write in their own words. And what I'm trying to say is that you are allowed to write in your own words. And like Ayush said, okay, you use those keywords which are expected by the examiner. You're writing in as long as the meaning of the answer is not lost, you are allowed to write in your own words, except maybe for certain papers where you need to be word to word, having the same, because I think especially we had a paper like ISCA wherein it had to be exactly same to same. There you are not allowed to write things in your own words. But when it comes to the other theoretical papers, you are allowed. Maybe law, where it is what do you say, when it is something which is exactly same needs to be written, it has to be written. But otherwise, I think it is allowed. You can write it in your own words. But then like what Ayush said, the keywords have to be maintained, and maybe you can revolve around those keywords and then give an answer.
Correct. So last question we would like to take is how to decide. It's a very common question between as when we were also students, that whether to give a single group or both the groups for first attempt. I think the answer which explanation which Ayush has given, the plan to study both the groups and not the first group or the second group. And I think it definitely matters when you give your first shot, because that is the best shot. That was we think. Ayush, you would like to add something?
Yeah, so given a choice between attempting single group and both groups, I would always go for attempting both the groups together, because you never know how a single group may turn out. It might be a possibility that group 1 may be difficult, but group 2 is stellar, and it's an easy group for that attempt, and you may end up passing the group 2, and that might help you in the future attempt if you go in the future attempt as well. So definitely. And also what helps is the set off helps you when you are attempting both the groups. And I will always say, how much ever you have prepared, okay, even if you have prepared 50% for each subject, go and give your both the attempts and both the papers, okay. Just don't think that I have prepared only 50%, so though I have filled up my examination form, I will not go and give the examination. What is important is attempting your attempt, okay. So because you cannot predict that what may turn into your favor, and your luck might be good on that day, and you might even get an exemption in that subject. So I would always say that go for both the groups together. However, there might be certain circumstances like that you are not getting adequate period of leave from your firm, or you have to complete various other things. In that scenario,
Like I think Ayush has lost his net, I believe.
Yeah, I think he got dropped.
Okay, Parin, can I just add here? Parin,
Yes,
can I
yes,
add
ma'am.
here? Okay,
Yes,
you know
ma'am.
what? Ayush is actually extraordinarily brilliant. So maybe the way he would think would be a little different. But from where I stand in my life today and being with the children day in and day out, what I feel is that not every child has the same potential. Yeah, everybody has a different capability and capacity of absorbing things. So what happens is that not everybody is having the ability to absorb, learn, study, retain, and that stress could be something which is not allowing the student to even cope up with one group. So I would personally believe that if it is becoming too very difficult for a student, because see, everybody is having different capabilities and abilities. Ayush, you are absolutely brilliant. But not every child would probably, have that ability to probably study all the 7 or 8 subjects together. So that stress at times doesn't allow you to perform and study even for a group. Ki yaar mere ko 8 subject karna kaise hoga? Every child is different. Every child's priority is different. Every child's way of learning is different. So I personally feel that if at all it is becoming too very difficult to practice to study both the groups, there's nothing wrong in even trying to attempt one group. But yes, keep the second group in abeyance, saying that okay, I'm preparing for my first group, I'm doing my second group casually because I'm not able to. So it's about your perception, wherein you're saying that yes, I'm preparing for my first group, I'm preparing my second group casually, and you're mentally prepared. Okay, I'm okay if I don't clear my second group. It's okay. So that mental preparation has to be there in the beginning, so that you don't get frustrated later thinking that I've not cleared my second group now. So do it with that attitude. Okay, I'm giving both the groups. Yeah, because see, you know what? In the CA examinations, failures are very difficult to handle. It is your perception. You may be thinking it's okay for me not to clear my examination, but the world around you is not so very friendly. A failure is taken as a failure, in spite of the fact that you have a perception. Okay, I'm okay. I may not clear it, maybe okay. But the people around, it's very difficult to explain people around that why you failed. You can't say that, okay, I planned because I was going to fail. Okay, so you can't do that. So everything has to be kept in mind. So if at all it is difficult to do both the groups together, there's nothing wrong in focusing on a group and doing group at a time. Of course, I think every CA students know that the set of advantage is definitely there if you're giving both the groups together. There's no denial about that. But then it is also about how much potential you're having. That has to be kept in mind, because if you're not prepared, there's always a probability that you face a failure. So whether you're ready to take that failure or not also has to be kept in mind. Ayush, I hope you're agreeing to what I'm saying.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I agree to what you are saying, and you know, it may come down to, you know, your individual, the individual capability and confidence on one's own preparations or one's own things, which might be a driving factor for, you know, giving a single attempt or a double attempt. So there are always going to be an exceptional circumstances, and each individual has to decide for himself or herself what is the best approach for themselves, because at this stage you are going to be a professional in your future life, and you have you know, enough decision making power to decide what is right and wrong for you.
True.
Preeti ma'am is also there. We have one question for her. Preeti ma'am, you there? She had joined. I think she got dropped.
I think she has left.
I think she got, yeah. So, okay then. Jigar bhai will conclude the session with vote of thanks. Yeah. Thanks a lot, CBO Chartered and Cost Accountants Association, for providing this opportunity for having this session for all the students, aspirants, chartered accountants, I would say. Ayush and Jyoti ma'am both have done a wonderful job. I'll just mix up the things which they have told up, that how to plan the studies with number of days, like 6 days, 7 days first reading, 3 days second reading, 1.5 days third reading. And yes, what Jyoti ma'am said, and against that, okay, every marks is you cost. So because you get marks for every step. So whatever step you know, you please write it down on the paper. Even if it is wrong, put it down on the paper, because you may not know, you may get an extra marks for that, and which will count on your results, because that is very important. One thing which I would like to acknowledge, Jyoti ma'am, when you said, okay, the smile is most important. At least I had a big smile on my face, though my camera was not on. But that really, because I personally went into that my student days, and yes, because that journey is always a memorable journey for all of us. Few points which Jyoti ma'am mentioned are cancelling the blank page. That is very important. If you don't know the answer and you have written subsequent questions behind, please cancel that blank page, so that the examiner will know that you have written something ahead. Writing something reasons for true or false is very important. Differentiations, when you are presenting, please present in the tabular form. It is very easy. It is very self-explanatory for the examiner also to give the marks. And yes, the most important thing is planning and recognizing your saturation point. So that is both the things. So a starting point, which is a planning point, and at the I would like to say at the end, that is recognizing your saturation point is also very important. Doing whatever you like, however, your focus and your dream should be a clear thing till you don't clear the CA exams, that you have to be a chartered accountant and the member of the ICAI. with this, I propose a hearty vote of thanks to CA Ayush Dedia and CA Jyoti Soni ma'am. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and on behalf of CVO Chartered and Cost Accountants Association, we propose a hearty vote of thanks to you on behalf of the participants also. And I would request everyone to take it with a loud applause. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ayush.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ayush, and thank you, Jyoti ma'am.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope all the CA aspirants are here would have benefited from this great initiative by CVO CA.
Yeah, I think we would have liked some, some inputs here from the participants in the chat box so that we would know whether they were actually hearing or not.
Actually, yes. The question also I got from were on my personal chat box only. On the Zoom, I think the students may have directly messaged on my.
Okay, Parin. So you are the star today.
No. You both are stars. We are.
Okay, because you know what, the fact is that I'm a GMCS faculty, so that's the reason my way of perceiving and perceptions are a bit different, because nowadays everything is on the virtual mode, so even our sessions are on the virtual mode, so we get the responses on the chat box, so I'm sort of used to that. That's the reason.
I think now everyone has started to
we have got some responses at 6 o'clock also. 6 p.m. chat also we have got some responses.
Okay, Jigar, was it good? At 6 o'clock? Okay.
I think even you might be able to see it.
Deepesh is saying that all of us were hearing wholeheartedly. Okay, thank you, Deepesh. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you everybody. Thank you guys.
Thank you everyone.